The visual is not important here. The music is not important here. The voice is not important here. What matters are the words. If you cannot listen to the words, you do not belong here. If you understand this, welcome to the Fate Club. Inside a human being, a new impulse of perception begins to emerge, one that surpasses the traditional five senses and gradually takes the form that can be described as inner resonance. This sense is neither physical nor directly tangible. It does not arise in reaction to external stimuli, but in the silence between inner impulses and thoughts. It is not a premonition nor a classical intuition, but a frequency that reveals patterns within and beyond the body, causing attention to slowly shift from the need to react to external situations toward observing subtle states of consciousness. Inner resonance begins to manifest as a slow deceleration of reflexive reactions. The mind, once bound to evaluation, comparison, and decision-making according to familiar rules, learns to perceive without immediate interpretation. Every stimulus, every internal movement, every emotion becomes information rather than a binding response. What was once a signal of danger or opportunity transforms into neutral energy, which can be observed and analyzed without the necessity to act. This sense does not function in isolation. It uses the old senses as channels. Hearing ceases to be only the registration of sounds and becomes the perception of rhythms, pulses, and hidden tones carrying meanings beyond words. Vision no longer merely registers shapes and colors, but recognizes patterns of movement, changes in light, and contrasts that reveal the state of consciousness and energy. Taste and smell, once serving to assess food and environment, become indicators of subtle shifts in inner and outer resonance. Touch ceases to be only physical contact and becomes the ability to sense density, movement, and energy changes in the space around the body. Gradually, as inner resonance stabilizes, the way a person identifies with the world begins to change. Old identities based on performance, roles, and expectations lose their necessary tension. A person no longer reacts reflexively to social signals, fear, or the pressure of external authorities. They perceive themselves as an observer of their own experience and simultaneously as registered in the subtle patterns around them. Inner resonance also manifests as a change in the perception of time. Linear time, once governing decisions and performance pressure, gradually dissolves. Past and future become less significant. The present is no longer a tool for reaction, but a space for observing impulses and frequencies. Reactions that were once automatic slow down, allowing the inner system to calibrate and synchronize with a rhythm that is not external time, but the frequency of inner resonance. With this sense, the ability to decide also changes. It is not decision-making based on calculation or rapid analysis of facts, but the ability to select impulses that best align with internal synchronization. Old motivations such as fear, desire for power, or recognition gradually fade, replaced by inner impulses that observe subtle differences in frequency and energetic structure around oneself. This sense develops in cycles. First, it manifests as fatigue from reflexive reactions and routines, a decrease in impulses to respond to stimuli that have lost their significance. Then comes a phase of quiet deceleration, where impulses are perceived but do not trigger immediate action. Next is a phase where inner observation allows patterns and connections to be perceived between impulses, between emotions and states of consciousness, between bodily sensations and energy shifts. Finally, inner resonance stabilizes as a continuous state, changing the way the body and mind are synchronized with the world around them. As this sense develops, it begins to slowly open perception beyond the 3D experience. Stimuli that were once ignored or inaccessible to consciousness become detectable in the finer frequencies of 5D. Focusing on inner resonance allows the capture of vibrations that transcend space and time, revealing new layers of reality previously hidden by routine and reflexive processing. The old senses become windows through which these higher frequencies enter consciousness. Perception, once linear and tied to specific objects and events, expands into a continuous field where impulses, patterns, and frequencies are observed as an integrated process. This process requires the gradual release of old reflexes. Every stimulus that in 3D would trigger fear, excitement, or judgment is now interpreted as information within a frequency field. Impulses once triggered by external events become internal signals for synchronization with higher frequencies. The old senses which perceive the world through limited structures transform into amplifiers of the new layer of perception, less reactive and more receptive. As inner resonance intensifies, the coordination of body and mind changes as well. Movements, breathing, impulses, and reactions synchronize with subtle vibrations of reality that lie beyond the original 3D spectrum. The inner system learns to respond to signals that were previously imperceptible, while also allowing perception of connections between inner states and higher frequencies. Gradually, changes also appear in the perception of interaction with others. What was previously interpreted as words, gestures, or emotions is now perceived as part of a frequency field connecting the internal states of individuals. Reactions become less personal and more synchronized, allowing the inner system to detect subtle differences and connections between frequencies of presence. Inner resonance thus opens the door to perception beyond the linear world, beyond the traditional limits of the five senses. Every experience, every impulse, and every connection with others becomes information within the 5D frequency field, observed, registered, and absorbed without the need for immediate reaction or interpretation. This process unfolds slowly, systematically, and effortlessly as a natural adaptation of the interior of a human being to new conditions of existence. If you understand this, welcome to the club.